Hello everyone and welcome to a fabulous episode of RiesKitchen. Today we're making something pretty special. Raspberry macarons with a dark chocolate ganache. Oh my gosh, I just can't wait for these. They're pretty simple. I thought they were tricky, but there's a couple of special secret tips that I'm going to give you today and you'll be able to make these at leisure. Not many ingredients. Let's get straight into it, shall we? So first up we have some eggs, some almond flour, not meal, some normal sugar, icing sugar, freeze-dried raspberry powder, freeze-dried raspberry crumbs, that's optional but awesome, some dark chocolate, salted butter and cream. Macarons are one of those special dishes that we actually have to have our ingredients exactly measured, and that includes our egg whites. And so although I have shown you 3 large or extra large eggs, we need 100 grams of egg white, which was 2.5 that I have here. But when I was lucky enough to be in Paris last year, an extra special trick I learnt when I did a macaron course was separate your eggs and put your egg whites uncovered in the fridge overnight. That way they dry out a little bit more and it will remove some of the moisture and you'll get a better, crisper macaron. So I'm sharing that special tip with you today. So this is about 2.5 egg whites. But I also want to talk about almond flour. I always thought macarons were made with almond meal, which is much coarser. And almond meal also includes the brown skin on the outside of almond. Almond flour has that skin removed and is much finer. You will get that lovely crisp shell and that gooey centre if you use the correct flour. I can find it at my normal supermarket. It's in the specialty flour section though, but it's certainly there. And together they'll make us the perfect macaron. So I'm just going to pop my egg whites in my mixer and I'm going to beat them on fairly low until they are fluffy. So we're good and fluffy. And now I'm going to add 1/3 of our sugar and whisk it a bit more, 1/3, whisk it a bit more, 1/3, whisk it a bit more. And then once I've got the last of the sugar in, turn it up nice and high and whisk until we get those nice stiff peaks. Let's just check. I don't think it's ready, but just check. Oh, it's not too far. There we go. Now we need to get our dry ingredients ready. So I'm going to sift them, especially because I'm using pure icing sugar. You get a number of lumps and just pop them into this bowl to then add in. Now the next stage is the slightly technical stage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add our dry ingredients all in one hit. You'll notice I've changed to my flat beater and I'm going to mix it for 10 seconds. Then I'm going to scrape it down and put it from the low setting that I did the first mix on up to a medium setting for another 10 seconds and then stop. Then I'm going to check for something that the French call macaronage, and it's getting the mixture should be all together and give me a lovely ribbon as I use my scraper and can do the ribbon into the bowl. If it doesn't do that, you go by hand. The one thing you don't want to do with macarons is overmix them. So we want to get to just at macaronage stage and then stop. So let's get into that, shall we? Let's pop these in. The aroma from that freeze-dried raspberries is just amazing. So 10 seconds on really low. So now on medium for another 10. Doesn't take very long, does it? All right, let's have a look. Make sure I haven't quite got everything mixed in. I can see that from my beater, but I'm going to take the rest of this off by hand. No, it's not all mixed in. So what I'm looking for, not quite, right, getting there though. You want it just loose enough to make the ribbon. There we go. So now we're up to piping our macarons. So with my piping bag, I'm using a size 12 plain nozzle today. I think they give you the best size, which will be about the size of an Australian 20-cent piece, which is about that big. That's a nice size, 1, maybe 2 ladylike bites, which is fabulous. I've also prepped my tray with my Silpat. Now my Silpat are non-stick, but if you're using baking paper, just put a little bit of the mixture underneath the corners of the baking paper just to hold the paper still. You'll get a better result in the end. So I'm just going to cut the tip off my bag. All right, so now with it about 1 centimetre above my board, I'm just going to squeeze in my macarons, or pipe I should say, not squeeze in. So now with a wet finger, I'm just going to tap where my peaks are a little bit high. Now in our heads we have to kind of decide which ones are going to be our tops, and I'm going to sprinkle some of my raspberry crumb on now, on half. Now the important step now is to give the tray a little bang. Interesting sound on the bench. And then you put these aside to sit for 30 to 45 minutes until the tops aren't sticky anymore. So to test that they're ready to go in the oven, we just tap the top. These are a little bit sticky and we want them quite dry. It's a high humidity day, it's actually raining outside, and they've actually sat here for 55 minutes. They'll be fine, but that's what you want, not too wet and sticky. My oven's at 145 degrees centigrade, fan forced of course, and these go on the bottom shelf. Now if you've got baking paper, that's for 15 minutes, but on a Silpat it takes a little bit longer, so I'm going to pop them in for 17. One tray at a time. My kitchen is smelling so amazing, that raspberry aroma. All right, so these are done. I'm going to pop the first batch on my tray, and then I'm going to pop the second batch straight in. Oh, look at that. And you know you've done it right when you've got the little feet. Now, how tempting does that all look? Can't take a peek yet. Need to let them go completely cold. You'll see that I've taken them off the metal trays and just got the Silpats directly on my cooling racks, just to help get that airflow and help them cool down a little bit quicker. So now we're up to making our ganache. So I'm just going to warm up our cream till it gets to 90 degrees. Now if you don't have a thermometer, all that means is once it starts getting those little tiny bubbles. So we've got to 90. So now I'm just going to pour my cream directly over my chocolate and butter. And we just do that until it all melts together. So that's pretty much chocolate all melted there. There's a couple of little bits I'll keep stirring for another second. Now I need this to thicken to be pipeable. So I'm going to pop it in the fridge for 5 minutes and then hopefully, because at the moment that's not pipeable, and it'll thicken up. And these should be pretty much cool by then. So my ganache is quite thick but not solid, and I've paired up my macarons. So it's okay that there's some are a bit bigger and smaller than others. What's important is that you put a top and a bottom that are going to be about the same size. So just getting my next piping bag ready. So turning our bottoms upwards. Okay, now the trick is to put a good amount in the middle, and then what we're going to do is grab the top, put them together and twist. And that spreads it evenly. We don't want ganache over the sides. And there's our first macaron. Now I know I say it every episode, but the hardest part really is in the waiting. These need to solidify, and so that means a half hour to an hour at least in the fridge. Overnight would be perfect. Probably in a reproof container so that I don't sneak any. They just look divine and they smell delicious. I am so excited to have brought this recipe to you all. This is one of my personal favourites. They're always a special treat. They're naturally gluten-free and they are just amazing. Don't forget, for all the details of today's recipe, check out my blog at the link below. But as always, the best bit's in the eating. The crack of the outside of the biscuit, the chewiness of the ganache. Oh my goodness, that raspberry just pops. These are a pretty special, sometimes treat. I'm looking forward to having one with a coffee as soon as this camera goes off. Until next time, everybody, ciao.